working leadership of our fire department. We are here today as community leaders, and of course, community leaders throughout this city has genuinely, authentically supported Chief Aubrey Jenkins. The last few weeks have been very, very difficult in the life of this city for all of us who have looked at this city in a very inclusive way, have looked at this city to say we continue to expand and grow ourselves. Many of us are here today not because of what you've heard or the rumors that have been dispelled, but you're here today to support this man who gives of himself, his time, his talents, and his gifts. We are asking everyone in this city of ours, and I think you know as well as I, and members of this council and members gathered around this DS today, that we are an inclusive community undergirded with the true sense of support. We understand that a full investigation is still underway. So why clamor in rumors and misinformation? If anything, let us be genuine as we embrace the totality of inclusiveness and embrace the whole notion of support is very, very necessary. Look at these firemen and women who runs to the fire and not away from it. But they're running towards that realization that support is needed. Please, let me reiterate this fact. Until a full investigation is done, we've heard, we've sensitized ourselves, and we are ready now to lend wholeheartedly our support. Actually, enough is enough until the full picture is drawn. I want to welcome now Chief Skip Holbrook, our Chief of Police.
Thank you, Reverend McDowell. This is difficult for me. I don't know that I've never experienced an attack on a decorated colleague like I witnessed just a couple days ago when I received a copy of this press release and the intentions of talking about just a tragedy that occurred in our city a few weeks ago. And I want to talk a little bit about that letter or that release. You know, it was authored by some people that I don't know, and I certainly know were not present at that fire, and were not part of that fire investigation that occurred after the fire. And let's talk about the fire investigation and what Chief Jenkins did and how he led that. So the day of that fire, there was a co-response to the fire based on an existing agreement between the Columbia-Richland Fire Department and a neighboring agency with IRMO. Firefighters arrived on the scene at about 4:13 in the afternoon, they were dispatched about 4:13, and they arrived just 3 minutes later and immediately began initiating suppression operations and rescue operations. And of course, we know that during the time that they were fighting that fire, Several firemen were injured, and we had a fireman that was killed during the firefighting activity. During that fire, there was a response by local, state, and federal law enforcement assets that have subject matter expertise in fire investigations. And I was on scene as well. And while the fire was still being worked, I had a conversation with Chief Jenkins, and he expressed his desire that we had a very aggressive multi-agency approach to investigating the fire and the origin and cause of the fire, and he immediately initiated that while that scene was still hot. As I said, upon that request, we had local, state, and federal authorities on the ground, and 24 hours later, we had an unprecedented request by the fire chief again to activate the national response team. And that was immediately done, and within 24 hours of that, we had national response team investigators on the ground. In my over 30 years in law enforcement, this was the most comprehensive response to an investigation that I've been a part of. We met multiple times every single day, collectively as leadership, and we made decisions collectively. We always had consensus, and I saw everybody working as one team. They checked their egos at the door. Nobody had an agenda. The agenda was, as directed by our fire chief, get to the bottom of this. The reason law enforcement was involved was we had a fire fatality, and we wanted to make sure that we either proved or eliminated any criminal intent. Within a few days of working the scene, the fire experts, the subject matter experts that were part of each of the participating agencies, they reached a conclusion, a preliminary conclusion of the origin and cause. As we briefed as leadership, it was decided collectively and unanimously that Chief Jenkins would in fact be the person that would talk about that at the appropriate time, and that it certainly was his prerogative to release some preliminary findings, which he did. And those preliminary findings were accurate, and they remain accurate based on the information that's been determined by investigators to date. That origin and cause was accidental at this point, and it originated at a stove. The National Response Team will issue a written final report within the next couple weeks. And again, as of today, nothing has changed in that origin and cause. The letter that I read, it misrepresented what I just stated. Co-response to the fire, to fight the fire, based on agreements that have been in place for years, and immediate request by the fire chief for appropriate assets to do an investigation of the origin and cause of the fire. Now let me address leadership. That's my fire chief. He's everybody knows him. He's honest as the day is long. I've participated in executive staff meetings with him where he tirelessly advocates for the men and women of the Columbia-Richland Fire Department. He has served with distinction for decades with this agency, served this city, and it disgusts me that anybody would question that. With any critical incident, there's review. And from the very beginning, he has not shied away from that. We have the response, the criminal/fire investigation, origin and cause, and then you have critical incident reviews. The sheriff and I took part in a very critical review of how we handled riots and civil unrest. And we acknowledged mistakes and we took corrective action so we wouldn't make those mistakes again. That's what leaders do. If a mistake's made, you own it, and you correct it, and you move on. And you have the courage to ask for those reviews. And I know, the fire department is renowned for incident command and doing after-action reviews and learning if there's a way they can do something better. And it is disingenuous for anybody to suggest that there's any other agenda other than doing what's right and seeking the truth. And it's insulting that anybody that has not been on that line, in that trench, on that ladder, that would suggest anything otherwise. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm the city manager, Teresa Wilson, and what you just heard are the facts of the situation. The facts that have occurred ever since the tragic events that occurred that resulted in a line of duty death that we are all heartbroken about. But now isn't the time to point fingers, to find blame, to even give any credence, and I'm just gonna shoot it straight, to some rogue outside group who's running into town off the paid dues of some supposed organization that lends itself to come into town and prey on communities to misinform, first of all. As the chief said, never laid a foot to my knowledge or picked up a hose or anything else on the day of the incident, but yet come here and conflate issues and point blame. Now, that's about all the attention I'm gonna give to that. The chief has already given the facts of the investigation. The arrogance and disrespect, the attempt to agitate community and misinform people is the reason why we're standing here, one of the reasons. But the overarching reason is to show support for a man who's given over 44 years to serve this community. And most recently, in a very long and hard-fought budget process that happens every year this time, he and the command staff and members of the battalions that are standing with him today thought above and beyond to be creative to begin to further address some of the other issues that departments all over this country are facing, like short staffing, resources, facilities needs, and we did that. Members of city and county council expect me and the county administrator, who I know would be standing here with us too if he could, to be good stewards of taxpayer dollars. They budgeted for and have allocated over an additional $1.5 million each to begin to address some of those needs from a staffing perspective, to pay our firefighters more, over $10,000 more as a starting firefighter has been approved in the proposed pay plan. A step pay plan that allows these firefighters who want to be career professionals to succeed and see how they can grow their careers and support their families over time if they choose to stay. These are the discussions that have been happening. These are the issues that the Fire Chief Jenkins and his team have been advocating for and have been quite successful. So to say, when I see some misinformed, disrespectful, arrogant press release come out on the very day that our city council, and I'm sure county council members as well, are doing the work, the real work to make real change, was so very disappointing. So very disrespectful. And so very unnecessary to come into town when communities are at their most vulnerable during a line of duty death and everything that is involved with that. We don't fear, we welcome the investigative process. Let it continue. It's a process, and whatever comes with it, we're here to address those things, make any changes if there are any that need to be made. Nobody is shying away from that, but it's a process. And unfortunately, when such groups prey on the very employees that we're trying to serve, because the taxpayers expect certain service delivery and they expect accountability and they expect that I, as a manager, hold my employees accountable to do the things they're supposed to do. And when I decide that in the midst of all this there's confusion and I'm gonna address the confusion with employees, it's a shame that certain people decide to hide behind social media platforms. I'm not on social media. So if you have something to say, stand up and be about it and say it. And I'm speaking directly to these agitators. I'm speaking even to members in our own department who decide that they're gonna have these separate associations to supposedly address issues. Now, I will say these associations, they are, the fire culture has this. We're not a union state, but, even in South Carolina, there are these associations who work within the departments. But then if you're going to do that, sit down and talk about things ahead of time. It's okay. We're not afraid to have conversations, but don't hide behind people. And definitely don't get in my lane, because we've coexisted really well over the last few years when you have worked as associations, because you stayed out of the lane of governance, of budget, of staffing issues and the like. When we as professionals are trying to work through those things and get
a department of recruiting and retention, so how do we know what that would entail? What are we missing? So those stats, it's really hard to comment on when, we can say the shortages for firefighters across the state or the country is down, yes. But you know what? Right now we're worried about Columbia. We're talking about Columbia. There are SAFER grant, which we have used with other departments on hiring. We're just working with a department up in the Grand Strand area that in the last year and a half has hired 123 guys. 123 guys in a year and a half off of grants and off of a revamped recruitment and retention division, and they're going strong. It was 5 years ago almost like at the state where Columbia Fire Department is, and now it's one of the most sought-off departments to apply for and get on. So, and that's for the last 10 months that we've been involved as a state association to assist or help, and we've just been had the door closed on us. So,
is it normal for the Professional Firefighter Association to respond to fires, and if so, how did you get the call on May 26th? It mentioned the press release that you guys would respond to the staff.
Yes, actually, I was in Virginia doing some stuff for the International, and while I was in the flight, I got the phone call from our president, our general president, Ed Kelly, And he called me that when I would touch down here in Greenville, they diverted me here, and that's why I came straight here.
Also in the press release it says Chief Jenkins did not call the agency to assist with the fire. Usually agencies are dispatched, from my understanding, is there significance there? Or,
Yeah. Normally when there is whether it's a line of duty death or a certain amount of damage done to a structure, automatically the state fire marshal comes in, SLED comes in, and so on. So as far as my response to that is it's a natural response. So I can report that both departments, IRMO and Columbia, are both cooperating with all agencies, which is what we want. At the end of the day, that's what we want. So I'm thankful for both departments doing that.
Also, it mentions the hydrant near the apartment building being out of service. Do you know if there were any other hydrants in the area that were out of service? And do you know if the investigating agency has asked the question of whether it was malfunctioning?
I don't know any details on that. We're actually going to wait until all agencies give their final report to comment on that, and then we'll come out with a statement.
One final question.
Yes, sir.
Also, it says that Chief Jenkins released the information about the fire. Would he have access to the report, and was it wrong or inappropriate for him to release the cause? And how do the points you've listed add up to the failure on the part of the chief's leadership?
Well, I think coming out with with a result is wrong and a failure, because the one who can give the ruling is the ATF. And in those meetings, there was going to be a 2-week until the final result came out. So he put it out a week beforehand.
Can you talk a little bit more about your safety concerns, like what you would like to see change for the firefighters as far as safety?
Sure. Well, with apparatus, we have apparatus that they're actually running either on a second line, and the front line is out of service, where we can help with grants for that. We need. They're actually currently running with 2 ladder trucks that cannot pump water. I think it's a collaboration of everything where, and it's hard to just point it at one thing, but as far as I know that there's bunker gear that's out of date. A lot of guys don't have second sets, which is another NFPA standard. The response time, as far as I think EMS is getting in the way of that, and they actually lost their EMS status. So once they reply or respond to an EMS call, they are no longer able to respond to a fire call or an accident or something of that nature. Sorry.
No, you're fine. What in your mind? What's the next step?
I would think that if there is an immediate change and progress moving forward as far as starting up a recruitment and retention division, or some kind of plan to fix the dated apparatus. I mean, we're still talking. There's fire stations that have leaky roofs, mold. It's got to be overwhelming. But if this was taken care of starting 5 years ago, 7 years ago, we wouldn't be at this by gradually taking care of it. I think that's where the neglect comes in as far as with the firehouses. I know that there's firefighters that are actually spending their own money to fix up the firehouses, and that's a problem. That's a real problem, and I think that's where we came in. And again, this is 10 months of research. This is of looking into the facts, and that's what we base ourselves on is facts. We don't want to speculate. We don't want to point fingers. I have stats just on the last 3 months of the number of apparatuses that were understaffed, the amount of hours personnel had to work overtime, Just in March alone, there was 32 firefighters forced overtime. That means they're working their 24 hours, but they were forced to work another 24 hours where they had no say in it, couldn't go back home, couldn't go see their family, but they were actually forced. So, you know, when you put it all together, that's a problem. And I think that if I think there are good people in city council, and the mayor's a great guy, but it's time that it's taken care of, you know, and if not, I suggest a whole new. Let's start from scratch, you know, from the top, working from the top, you know, not that I want anybody to lose their job or anything like that, but he's had his opportunity, and let's work together. And if not, we need to ask to move forward with somebody else.
I have two questions. One,
Yes, sir.
is every fire department funded the same way? So, from what your accusations are, it's lacking this, lacking that, out of date, this and that. From your research, has there been adequate amount of funding to where this could have been corrected? And two, are you asking for Chief Jenkins to step down?
I'm asking Chief Jenkins to step down if he's not going to change, and if he's not going to move forward and be progressive, and fix what needs to be fixed, and build a recruitment and retention. Yes, I am.
Now, is there a timeline that you're actually going to request that for him to stand down? Or are you going to say, well, we've done this research for 10 months. Within the next 30 days, if we don't see something, we will officially ask for his resignation?
Well, I think we'll probably have to come to you know, now that this has come to light, now that it's in your hands and the public's hands, I think we see where the public wants to go with this and what changes can be made, and if they are, and then I would be more than happy and would want to readdress this with you guys. But as far as a timeline, I would think that we should see something in the next week or something being proactive and trying to change. You know, things take time, but it doesn't take time to put a plan moving forward. It doesn't take that long of time to put that together.
So really what you're looking for is a forward-looking plan with Chief Jenkins, saying this is what we found, and this is what we would like you to address. And if you could start working on these issues that we found, we have no problem with what's going on here, as long as we can get them corrected.
Absolutely, and I would ask Chief Jenkins to allow us to sit at the table with them and work together. I know that you know, like I said before, we're not always going to agree to we're going to agree to disagree. But I think the things that the IFF can offer, the things that our state association can offer, can help him in a lot of these issues that are going on. So I would ask to have a seat at the table along with a few firefighters from Columbia and sit down and let's throw it all on the table. But until this time, you know, the door's been closed. So, you know, we're the type who wants to work behind closed doors and get the job done. We don't like going in the public and stuff like that because, you know as well as I do, you get more done working together behind closed doors, and we've tried that. We've tried every opportunity and every outlet, and this is where we've come.
You started to answer the question a little bit earlier, but could you talk a little bit about specifically what sort of apparatus, what sort of equipment needs to be updated, and whether that played any sort of role in what happened on May 26th? Like, was there equipment malfunctioning that day and this could have been avoided by updating that equipment forever?
Well, like I said earlier about May 26th, you know, we don't want to have a comment or an opinion until all the reports are out. But I think as far as the apparatus is concerned, I think I know for a fact that they have a pretty newer ladder truck, and that ladder truck's already failing some of the services and stuff like that. So I think it's like I think the whole needs a deep dive all the way across, and again, put on the table. Let's be transparent. So nobody likes to sit up here and accuse somebody of this or accuse somebody of that. But when it's come to this, yes, either let's sit at the table and work through this because we can assist, we can help. I don't want to tell him how to do his job. I don't want to, but I would like to offer some of the things like the GIS study, the financial study, SAFER grants, AFG grants. We even can provide grants for the city in different departments. The sanitation, the parks, and we want to work together for a safer department, a safer city, a safer community.
Obviously, we discussed all the issues. For people at home, if things don't change, is it something that if someone calls 911 and they try to send out fires, there'll be someone to come, they won't have the right equipment? How does it impact like a normal person?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's happening as we speak. Just the other week, everybody knows as far as with the EMS, they're swamped and stuff. So that's why what we call a chase. We, as far as the fire department is concerned, we chase with a ladder truck or an engine. And but sometimes when they're there for 45 minutes or an hour, dispatch says you might want to have the patient drive themselves to the. It's just unfortunately it's a domino effect, and what affects EMS affects the fire. What affects the fire affects the EMS. So, but there is nothing that can't be fixed. I've seen the worst of the worst, and it can be done. Again, we don't need to throw anybody under the rug or point blame. All I'm asking is, at the end of the day, let's work together. Give us a seat at the table.
And can you speak on the allegations of firefighters might lose their job or not even get paid just for attending this press conference?
Yes, and after we put out the press release Sunday, there's several firemen that's been been called up to the chief's table, if you will, with all the other chiefs. Threatening that if we don't redact or cancel this press conference, that there's going to be consequences. They've been told that they're not going to get their raises that they approved on Tuesday. I was told that if I didn't call Chief Jenkins before 3 p.m. by certain people, that they weren't even going to vote on it. So I called Chief Jenkins, had a nice discussion. It ended up being talked about and passed on Tuesday. So, they made some concessions, and we did too.
Is there anything you wish we would have asked you? Anything else you'd like to say while we have you?
No, you guys are great. How was I with dry mouth? Sorry about that. You guys actually, are we live?
Yes.
Okay.
Is there anything else you would like to say to people of Columbia? I'm sure there are people who are attending that thing this morning and support of the fire department here in Columbia. Is there a message you want to send out to them who are listening right now?
Yeah, we've always had the bad reputation as being the guys who demand this and demand that, or unions this, unions that. That's not how it is here in South Carolina. We want to work together. We have resources, they have resources. Let's work together. And at the end of the day, sometimes we get a bad rap, but I'm here to tell you we're here for the safety of purely the citizens and businesses of the communities across South Carolina. That's why we're here. We are here to advocate and represent because of situations like what happened so far this week with threats and harassment and stuff. So that's why we are here. That's why I called the press conference, and we called the press conference to advocate.
I do have a couple more actually. I'm curious as what is your role or the role of the Professional Firefighters Association of South Carolina? What is your role?
My role is to represent professional firefighters across South Carolina. Professional firefighters protect and serve over 80% of the population in South Carolina. And so my role is to represent, advocate, train, educate, and not only just about firefighting, but actually education classes and stuff. That's our role.
So as you've done this 10-month research, what has the association done to help address these issues? What knowing that these issues are occurring, what have you guys done to assist, if any at all?
We haven't been able to assist because several times with the chief and the department, we haven't been allowed. We've had a representative of the firefighters go in there, but it's on deaf ears. So, and that's what we're really looking for. You know, just like you say, is give us a seat at the table. Let us help, assist any way we can. Because when it all comes down, the taxpayers of Columbia deserve the very best, no matter what. As long as we get there, it doesn't matter how we do it. Let's just get there.
Can you explain a little bit what that seat at the table looks like to you?
A seat at the table is like at other departments or cities where, you know, whether it's me or somebody from our state association, plus a couple of firemen from that department, sit with the chief and his staff, and sometimes the mayor, sometimes city manager if there's a city manager, and it's almost like a just a monthly sit down of what's going on, what can we do, and everybody just puts together their thoughts and ideas and comes out with something, you know, and discusses how we can better the future, how we can better the firefighters, how we can better the residents.
Anything else?
Is there anything we didn't ask you that you want to make sure that public knows?
No, I think that last one hit. So thanks. Yeah. With dry mouth. Sorry, it's my chemo. Yeah. Cut. These are some of the things that I would like to send you. Again, it's just part of our research. You know, so you guys can have facts when you go back. Like, you know, some of, and I apologize for not printing them off, but I'll send them to you right when I get back to the hotel. And then I took some of the things from the website, the fire department website, with population, stuff like that. And then, of course, everything cross-referencing NFPA, which is the national standard. This is just a GIS, which I think they need to do, which is well, you know how expensive those things are, but it's free. You know, that's sitting at the table, offering. And then this is actually the NFPA standard. So, you know, anything that came out of my mouth is backed by facts. So, you know, I mean, that's kind of how we like to roll, is, you know, get a relationship that whatever's used out of my mouth is true and factual, you know. So, but I'll go back to the hotel and you guys will have all my cards.